There were many things I wished to achieve going to Star Wars Celebration last weekend, and I hit a few of them, but one of them was to try and get in on the Bad Batch panel. A task already made difficult by the fact that Disney's planning skills are about as precise as a bricklayer trying to do open heart surgery, and the time from which you booked your tickets to when everything was announced would simply come down to pure chance if you happened to book on that day that the desired event was on. And in this case, I only ventured to London for the Friday and Saturday and managed to catch both the Ahsoka panel and a migraine from the intense heat and countless fucking bodies traipsing the halls. Word to the wise, either monitor ticket sales or book a bigger fucking venue.
Got it!
Anyway, as it turned out, the most desirable show for me was taking place on the Monday, and it was regarding the future of the Bad Batch.
Oh, heard that through the grapevine, did you?
Thankfully, I have a friend who attended said panel and gave me the lowdown on what they saw and what was said, and I'd like to take a second to acknowledge how bittersweet the details are coming out of this panel. Firstly, after two incredibly impressive outings for the Defective Bunch, it was expected that we would receive a third installment given how Season 2 concluded. But what no one anticipated was the fact that Season 3 will be their last.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
This surprise legitimately threw me as I was speculating during my Season 2 weekly reviews that it had longevity, and I could easily see it going for another 3 seasons without overstaying its welcome, with a good portion of the 19-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope to fill in, or at the very least it could run us up to Rebels. However, knowing that it's coming to an end, it's changed my views over a few things coming out of Season 2 that we have left to answer now, and I want to talk about them before we get into the little tidbits that were revealed from the trailer. Firstly, tech. The man sacrificed himself for the survival of his squad, and I certainly feel that as cool as it would be to bring him back one last time, I don't want that to happen. There's a lot of speculation over his death and whether or not it truly happened, but the entire season was him understanding the emotions that he never considered before because of Omega. His sense of loyalty to the Batchers was always there, but to resonate with any of them in a more sentimental way felt like something he couldn't achieve. However, thanks to Omega and Wrecker and Hunter in their own right cluing him in at times, he learned to appreciate people and things around him much more than he already did. The soldier mentality was steadily depleting inside him, and it became a mission of protection, and he delivered on just that. He protected his family in his final moments. Not to mention the relationship brewing between him and Phee, which could likely incite her to join the Batchers in some way in the next season, upon realising his death. It felt like his arc was complete, and he did a great service to the crew. Then we have to think about what this will look like for the future of the clones. If this is indeed the conclusion of the Bad Batch, this is the end of the clones' journey. A storied history spanning over 20 years is about to have a bow placed on it once and for all, with only small additions beyond this likely being in the books or shows like Tales of the Jedi. And I'm equally as devastated as I am glad that this will be the case. The clones, like Ahsoka, became one of the most celebrated factors to come out of the prequels, and Filoni felt that needed to be emphasised, hence why we have this. Especially when you consider, and in fairness, that this came after much deliberating, but fans were able to deduce that the clones were very much victims in the events of Order 66 as much as the Jedi, but there was never a canonical answer to what became of them, and that's why this show is here. Through all of the supposed filler, this show has done its job, and it has done it well. It's subtly documented the transition of the clones to TKs, and has given us a little more time with our beloved troopers before we bid them farewell once and for all. I am very curious for how we will conclude the Age of the Clones, and what this means for the Bad Batch going forward should any of them make it out of this alive. With the loss of Tech in the end of Season 2, it's fair to say that the writers are not afraid to cut members of the squad, and I imagine that Omega will undoubtedly be a guaranteed survivor, but what will become of Hunter, Wrecker, Echo and Crosshair? We know by the time of Rebels that Rex, Wolf and Gregor are out of the fight, but beyond simply aging too much or being rendered obsolete, what causes them to step away? As we know with the likes of Saw Gerrera, there are those that stick with the fight and keep the war raging on for over 20 years in the timeline, but the clones walk away even though we see later that they're more than capable of taking it to the Empire. So could it be the losses here and maybe that of the Bad Batch that caused them to leave? And is it possible that Rex only returns to the fight when he sees the strength and resolve that the crew of the Ghost have and what the rebellion is doing? It's hard to say, but regardless, it leaves an uncomfortable feeling in the pit of my stomach thinking about the very prospect of losing our group when they could just retire Empire on Pabu together.
Boys, this might be it. At least we'll go down fighting like a clone shoot.
I would assume that this season will end in a big blowout battle that will see an army of shared faces unite against a common enemy and put the superiority complexes behind them about which clone is the best. Now, with regards to what I was told and what I've heard since the trailer's unveiling, it's fair to say that there's 4 big takeaways from this right now, beginning with the return of Fennec Shand, a character who did a reverse Uno and made her animation debut after appearing in The Mandalorian, and honestly made a seamless transition to this medium, being introduced in the first season's 4th episode as one of the hunters commissioned to find Omega. She would later return in episode 9 of the same season, intercepting Cad Bane on behalf of Nala Se, who wanted to keep Omega out of the hands of Lama Su and the Empire. For her to return here must be something closely tied to the Batchers, and my thought right now at least could be that the Batch have commissioned Fennec or approached her as a friend to help retrieve Omega due to her expertise in aggressive matters. And the fact that Fennec seemed to take a liking to Omega in season 1, as have many people throughout the series, could lead us to seeing many of these names come together in support of the clones and Omega, like Roland Durand, Hera Syndulla, Gungi, and even Thee. That may just be me fantasy booking though. Then, quite possibly the biggest talking point coming out of this trailer is the reveal that Commander Wolf will be appearing this season, and all I can say is it's about damn time.
Hey, whoa!
When this series began, there were 2 characters people wanted to see the continuation of, and that was Commanders Cody and Wolf, both of which are fan favourites, and towards the start of season 2, Cody made his return to our screens for the first time in over 10 years, and by the end, his fate was left open with the likelihood that he'll return in this upcoming final season. But as soon as both he and Gregor appeared, the question quickly turned to Wolf, and now, by all accounts of everyone who attended the panel, he is in fact back. For the first time in roughly 7 years since Rebels, but for the Clone Wars, it will be a little over 11 years since his last appearance, so it's great to see him one last time in at least this beautiful animation style. My questions are though, how and where will they find him, and what can he contribute to this ensuing battle against the Empire? Then, the final takeaway from the information that I have found is the relationship between Omega and Crosshair in this season will be expanded on, as they have some of the best interactions in the show's first season. I imagine Crosshair will be suffering from survivor's guilt after learning of Tech's death, and Omega will likely try to console him and work with him to find a way out of this, while Hunter and the crew continue to work on getting into Mount Tantus. It's a focus I'm excited for, as Crosshair's had barely any interaction with the group beyond heated exchanges and shootouts, and since his turn on the Empire, that's a conversation I want to bear witness to at least just once between him and Omega, but preferably Crossy and Hunter. Now to the clincher of this trailer, the inclusion of Big Papa Popes.
Excellent. Everything is going as planned.
I honestly thought that Ian McDiarmid's involvement in Star Wars Rebels initially would have been a one-time thing, and a few episodes, but to then include him in a brief but vital 2-minute segment in Season 2 of Bad Batch was huge, and I figured, okay, he's open to that sort of thing, but I doubt he'll come back.
Wrong, sir. Wrong!
The reports are that Popes arrives on Mount Tantus and approaches Dr. Hemlock over the concerns of safety around the mountain after the attack on Eriadu, which I recently discovered is Tarkin's homeworld. Anyway, to see the extent of his involvement in this final season is certainly something I'm fascinated to learn. If you've got 1 season left and you have the money, screw it, use him and use him well.
Do it.
As for anything else that could come from this final outing for our group of rejects, I'm happy to see where the journey takes us, and trust that the writing crew have the best outcome planned that will likely leave a hole in our hearts, but a conclusion that's definitive and cathartic. I am saddened to see this show leave, as I truly believe it's one of the strongest pieces of ongoing content for Star Wars right now, and has had very little complication in its inception, which has made it universally loved even when people think it's fallen one week. All I want from this final outing is a concise, effective and logical conclusion that offers us a beautiful send-off for the fandom's favourite rejects and doesn't waste time with empty episodes that don't comprise of contextually heavy material and deeply rooted subtext that brings tears to my eyes. Anyway, we just have to settle in and wait for the public release of the 3rd and final season's trailer now, and I'll be ready to review that one upon its arrival, so make sure that you're subscribed and leave a like on this video as it helps get this around, and keep an eye out for any more of my Star Wars related content if you're interested in this as well. Until next time everyone, take care and may the Force be with you.